Hello, my name is Chris Balsley, and today's session is about listening. As a therapist, as a coach, executive coach, and trainer with over 30 years' experience, one of the top three skills that I teach is listening. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to today's training program on active listening. I'll share my screen with you, and here we go. Communication skills training, active listening. This has lots of different names. It can be active listening, reflective listening. There's actually a 3-year training called nonviolent communication, NVC. These all basically have the same components. It's the ability to make someone feel like you literally are there for them, and all that exists in the world for you is them. And that's a really rare occurrence. So when I said this is one of the top 3 skills that I teach, it literally is a very rare thing in many places in the world, school, home, work, to actually be listened to actually be focused on, to have someone's undivided attention on you. It's a very rare experience. We actually spend about 85% of our time in conversation, waiting for the other person to shut up so that we can say what we want to say. So as the slide says, active listening is the antidote to that. And I really want to shatter this thing, because what I've noticed is as soon as I teach somebody the ability to listen, the ability to reflect back and to not only listen, but to say, let me prove to you that I heard you. What I think I heard you say was this. When that simple act, very profound act, is complete, people walk away feeling listened to, they feel heard, they feel empowered, and they feel valuable. Literally, by listening to somebody, what you're saying is, you are worth my time. You are worth my undivided attention. And I'm going to keep coming back to this and harping on it, that people don't experience that a lot in today's world. They don't really get a chance to say, wow, I feel like I'm worth someone's undivided attention. So the skills of active listening are pretty straightforward. You're going to focus on listening and not on fixing. In today's world, I see it in family therapy, I see it in corporate training, I see it in the business world, and I see it basically everywhere I go. Somebody says, I'm not happy. This isn't working. I'm frustrated. And immediately somebody says, yeah, I get it. Try this, do that. And I can't tell you how many times people have said, you know what, I don't want them to fix it. I just want somebody to acknowledge the fact that I'm struggling right now. So that's one of the things we're going to work on. My favorite quote comes from Carl Rogers. Another word for this active listening, nonviolent communication, reflection back is Rogerian counseling skills. Carl Rogers actually built an entire movement in psychology around the ability to listen. So the first skill set that we want to teach is the ability to use minimal modifiers. And so when you're talking to somebody, first off, make sure the focus is on them. Second off, you want to check in all the time. I could be wrong. And what I think I hear is this. I'm not sure about this, so I want to check it out. Did you just say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're asking for? And what this does is when you reflect back to somebody what they're saying, and you say, any one of those sentences, I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. I think I heard you say this. It creates a pause in the conversation. Wow, yeah, that's exactly what I said. When you're at that point, never give advice while active listening. So the line from Carl Rogers is, if you feel like you have an idea when you're reflective listening, hit yourself in the head with a hammer and then lay down and wait for it to pass. Active listening is really a powerful tool, but we never use it to give advice. We never use it to make a point, and we never use it to share our ideas or our thoughts. That's not the goal of active listening. It's simply the ability to reflect back. What I heard you say was this. Another piece that we're doing is don't forget to reflect back the human body and the emotions that are in front of you. So you can be reflecting back, I heard you say XYZ. Or you can say, I notice that your arms are folded. Or I notice that you seem a little upset today. Or I noticed that you haven't been at your desk a lot today. Those are all methods of reflecting back. We're reflecting back both what is said and sometimes more importantly, reflecting back what's not said. So be sure as you do this and you find people going, wow, that's really good. Thank you. And in that pause, don't fill it. Wait for them to keep talking. This can be really hard. You're welcome to read the slide, but the essence of it is we tend to want to be seen as incredible human beings. Like we have the answer, we know what to do, we want people's respect, we want the light to shine on us and people to acknowledge our brilliance. I see it all the time. Somebody says, you know what? I was out with my dog the other day and we noticed a squirrel. We noticed this animal running. And somebody says, oh yeah, I noticed the other day that I was with my dog and we saw a rabbit run across, and they take the conversation over. Somebody says, you know what? I've got a really bad headache. Somebody goes, yeah, I got a bad headache too. It literally deflates the conversation. It takes away any sense of value. Yeah, we're communicating, but the depth of our communication is right on the surface. I had a rough day. Yeah, let me tell you about my day. You think your day was rough. Let me tell you about mine. So what you really want to do when you listen is you want to go underneath all of that. You want to go underneath the desire to be seen as brilliant, the desire to feedback what you heard so you can make your point, but you're really dropping into what's going on? What's the language saying? What is their body saying? Are they slumped over? Are they excited and are their eyes bright? Are they like not paying attention and distracted on their iPhone and not really able to even give you the time of day as they're paying attention over here? Those are all things that we want to reflect back. But what we're looking to do is to really nail down at the deepest levels of active listening what's almost being said. When we can really do this well, I remember when I was learning this, I was probably in my 30s, quite a while ago. And I was at my college program for my master's in psych, and they were teaching this program. And they said, go home and try it with your partner. And I tried it with my wife, and I used it really faithfully for probably 5 or 10 minutes. And at the end of the conversation, she's like, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. In fact, you said it better than I could say it. Boy, did I score points that time. That's really what we're looking for, trying to find the meaning of the conversation, what's coming into the conversation right underneath it. Another thing I want to point out is that there's a frustration sometimes at the first level of this active listening, which is just parroting back. Somebody says, oh, I'm feeling like I'm not feeling so good. And you go, I hear you're not feeling so good. That's called level one. We'll go into 3 levels of this. That level 1 listening is actually very frustrating. To just repeat back mechanically what you heard somebody say is a tool, it's a technique, and it's honestly frustrating as all get out. What you want to do is you want to reflect back what they're going through, what the experience is for them, but you don't want to, I'll be direct, you don't want to validate a victim. So if somebody's complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining, you don't want to just let them complain and complain and complain and complain forever. By learning what part of the conversation to reflect back, by learning to reflect back the history of the time that you've known the person, and we'll go into that in this presentation, you're actually going to get to what's underneath it and be able to reflect back, why are they complaining? Why do they continually fall into a victim role? So that's really important. So sometimes people learn this technique and they go, I actually had it last week. Oh, this is terrible. I really don't want to do this. They tried it. They came back. They said, you know, I got frustrated. I felt like I was validating this person who was just whining and whining and whining. And I'm like, yeah, keep whining. Let me tell you what I heard you say. Keep going. But the whole point was they were trying to say underneath the conversation that I keep having these same conversations with you and they don't go anywhere. I keep saying the same things and we keep ending up in the same place. And when he was able to reflect back, oh, I know that you've been saying the same things for a few years in our marriage. She literally stopped and said, yes, that's the point I'm trying to make. We've been doing this and we're not making any progress. That was a huge breakthrough because she didn't say that in the conversation, but he was able to go underneath and go, wait a minute, we've had this conversation 20 times, to exaggerate. And she agreed and said, yeah, that's what's frustrating. That's why I keep complaining. So active listening skills. These are the things that we really want to pay attention to. And they look like this. There are 5 of them. Maintaining a clear sense of self with another. And actually, let me back up. If you go to the bottom of the screen, its attributions are to Murray Bowen. Murray Bowen worked on something called differentiation. These are literally the skills of differentiation. I've just transported them over into the active listening domain. Same thing. He uses active listening to get to these points. And once we can do these skill sets, the 5 points, active listening becomes a talent and an ability to make people fall in love with you, to become a powerful leader, and to really impact and change the world around you in ways that are pretty incredible. First thing we want to do is to maintain a clear sense of self with another. And this means don't let somebody else tell you how to feel. Don't let somebody else tell you by their complaint or by their feedback to you or by their opinion of you that they can tell you to feel good. Boy, I like it when you say that. Or that I feel bad. So literally, when people give us a compliment and we puff up and we go, oh, I like that. The opposite is true. I like it when you give me a compliment, and I don't like it when you give me feedback that's for my growth. When that makes sense, we understand that they have power over us, that if they say something nice, we feel good. And if they say something bad or constructive for our growth, we feel put upon. We want to take that away and let the locus of control really maintain it to ourselves so that we maintain a clear sense of ourself with another. So don't let somebody else determine how you feel. Number 2, non-reactivity to another person's reactivity. So if somebody comes in and they're really upset, don't change what you're doing by getting upset or going, I can't handle it, and walking away. Non-reactivity to another's reactivity. If you're involved in something that has value, probably there's people that are going to be triggered. They're going to be triggered because you're stepping into a big role, because you're being powerful, and they're going to be frustrated with something or another. And when they give you feedback, if you react to their feedback, or if they get upset and you get upset as well, again, they're the ones controlling you. So you want to don't react. You want to don't react. You don't want to react to somebody else's reactivity. So don't let them freak out and you freak out. Let them freak out or give you feedback or do whatever they want to do, and let them be free to be who they are. You want to give me feedback? That's fine. So internal versus external validation. This is a really big one. Internal validation is looking to yourself and saying, I want to tell myself I'm doing a good job. I don't care what other people think. I know I'm doing a good job. I know my results show for themselves. I know that I'm the best husband I can be. I know I'm the best coach, counselor, therapist I can be. And don't look to other people to give you that sense of validation. It doesn't mean we can't take compliments and say, thank you, I appreciate it. It means we don't let those determine how we feel. So people might or might not like what you do. Don't seek the other approval. Rather, pat yourself on the back and say, I know I did a good job. Next one, really deep. You've got to be willing to trade pain for growth, because as you're listening, I guarantee and I promise, you are going to hear things you don't want to hear. You are going to hear things that you don't agree with. And if you hear things that you don't agree with, the first tendency is to go, nope, not true. I didn't do it. Not my fault. In fact, it's your fault. How dare you say that to me? We become defensive. But when we can say, hang on just a minute, it sounds to me like you're telling me that part of the problem is my fault. Now, we don't say, I agree. You're right, it's my fault. We say, I hear you telling me that you think the problem is that I'm the source of the problem, that I'm the one that's not doing it right. When that becomes possible, you're going to feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that pain that you feel when you listen to someone's criticism of you or their statement that you're not showing up in a professional way, it's going to help you grow as a human being. Because when we take that in and we go, you know what? It's okay if people have different opinions than me. It's okay if people don't think I'm doing a great job. I know I'm doing the best I can. People, to swallow your pride and to do the right thing and not defend yourself is both at the same time pain-inducing, discomfort-inducing, and growth-inducing. But the reward is that when you realize that you can be an autonomous human being, I can let you give me any feedback that you want to. I can let you tell me, I don't think you're doing a great job, and I'm okay to respond. You know what? I really appreciate you giving me feedback. You're welcome to your opinion. And I'm not going to deny your opinion. I'm not going to tell you that you're right, but I'll listen to what you have to say because I'm strong enough to take feedback. So the last one is also important, but it's not as important to me as number 4, the willingness to trade pain for growth. This is sharing without reciprocal expectation. People learn these skill sets and they go, I'm going to practice my active listening skills or my NVC, because if I do, then somebody else will do the same back to me. And we don't want to do that. We want to learn to do these skills because we know that's the best thing for us as a human being to develop and to mature and to grow into a strong human person, strong human being or a leader. We don't do things so that other people will do it. We do it because we know it's the right thing to do. And the easiest way to show that is this one. When somebody says, I love you, I love you, they're waiting for you to say, I love you back. They're not saying I love you because that's what's inside of them and they just feel, I love you. They're saying it because they don't feel good inside themselves and they're looking for validation from the outside to come in and say, oh, I love you too. So they're literally going around saying, how can I get somebody to say they love me? I do it like this. I love you. So that's the last one, sharing without reciprocal expectations. Literally, don't do these kind of skills that we're teaching. Don't do these tools because somebody else will do it. Do it because it makes you a good person. Now, the oxymoron is as you develop and step up to the plate and show up and drop your ego and don't need to push back and don't need to defend yourself, and you have the incredible strength to let people be whoever they want to be, people will take that as permission to do the same. And you literally become a role model. And you give them permission to be really cool people too. Again, active listening, you're welcome to go back over the slide. 85% of what we say is nonverbal. So, just think about it. The example I have here is how many ways can you say, yes, I'll do that? I can do it like this. Shake your hand. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, shake my hand. Yes, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. The words are, yes, I'll do that. So if you reflect back, I heard you say you'll do that, and you mirror those words back, you're missing the point. The point is they said it from a strong point, a confident point, a scared point, a defensive point. They're saying it from a whole bunch of different perspectives. Listen to the perspective as well as the words. So the 3 steps we're working on today are mirror, reflect, and validate, MV or MR and V. Mirroring is the ability to be a tape recorder and to repeat back what you're saying. But again, that comes back in 3 different levels: deeper, deeper, and deepest. Reflecting is taking time, whether it's the length of conversation you've been in. Yep, I know you said that about an hour ago, and you said it again, and this has been a theme of today. That's reflecting. We're saying, I've known you for 10 years, and this has been a good, solid, constant feedback from you for 10 years. That's reflecting. And validating is quite simply saying, you know what? You're not crazy. If I were to look at the world from your perspective, I'd feel just like you feel. And those 3 skill sets, mirror, reflect, and validate, can change the world. I've seen it literally stop a freight train. So let me give you the 3 stages of mirroring. Pardon me. The first is, we're going to use the sentence, I'm not feeling so well today. So stage 1, it's a tape recorder. I'm not feeling so well today. Sounds to me like you're not feeling so well today. Not very satisfying. Stage number 2, I'm going to change the order of the words and throw in a couple of my own. I'm not feeling so well today. Well, I hear you feeling a little bit under the weather. A little more gratifying. Honestly, with all the teaching, it's very hard to people to even get to level 2. So if you think that's really easy, I challenge you to get to a consistent level 2 when you're feeding back to people. 3, the repetition is the listeners rephrasing their own personal interpretation. It looks like this. I'm not feeling so well today. I can see that. You clearly look a little bit under the weather. I'm going back to read this. Your voice sounds hoarse and you look a little peaked. Makes a lot of sense to me. So those are not using any of their words, using all of my words and adding more of my own. So let's try it again. I'm not feeling so well today. Yeah, I really get that. Your voice sounds hoarse. You look a little peaked, and I really get it. You don't look to me like you're feeling very good. That can be really rewarding. Now, when we add reflecting in here, listen to the shift. So when we mirror first, and then we go into this reflecting stage, it gets really interesting. So they say, and we're going to go back to level 3 of the ones that we just did. They say, I'm not feeling so well today. So I'll try it again. I'm not feeling so well today. I get that you're not feeling so well today. You look a little bit under the weather. I'm trying to get the words right. And you sound a bit hoarse. You hardly ever get sick. In fact, this is the first time I've ever heard you complain. This has to be a really big deal. You're normally in your desk all the time. You're always healthy. You're always showing up. And wow, you coming to me and saying you're not feeling so well today, that's got to be a really big deal. Now I've done level 3 and I've added some reflective listening. And that's where it gets really powerful. So level 3 and mirroring coupled with that last piece, that validation piece, sounds like this. I'm not feeling so well today. Yep, I get that you're not feeling so well today. You look a little bit under the weather. Your voice is a little harsh. And in fact, if I really think about it, I've known you for years and you've never complained about being sick. It's the first time I've ever heard you complain about being sick. And, with all this stuff on your plate right now, that's got to be a big deal. In fact, if I were in your shoes and I had the workload that you had right now and you complain about being sick, I'd probably feel the same way you do. Like it's a pretty big deal to come forward and say, I'm not feeling so good. So validation is, if I were in your shoes with that workload and getting sick at the same time, it'd feel the same way. Now, there is a 4th level to this, and it's going too far. And just for fun, I'm going to throw it out there. So somebody comes in and they say to you, you know what? I'm not feeling so good. And you come back and you say, oh, you look a little under the weather. Your throat's a little hoarse. I get it. In fact, you never complain. You're always stalwart. You're the workhorse. You got a lot on your plate too. And you know what? I know that as a smoker, you're probably concerned because I know that your father died of throat cancer, and you got a couple of kids. And if they died of throat cancer and your throat's harsh and you're a smoker, I'm wondering, you might even be worried that this could be cancer and that you might really be in serious trouble. So I may be right on the money, but I went way too far. Now, I've never in my life met someone that could effectively use level 4. It's almost too far out to even think about to be able to get to that point. But if you think about it, it may be accurate, but it throws somebody way on the dark side going, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. So that's level 4, but that's not a goal. Do not attempt number 4. Just know that it's out there. Another one, interrupting. When people start talking and you start listening, it will feel good to them and they'll want to continue. And then sometimes they'll start talking and it's like drinking out of a fire hose and you can't get them to stop. And they're like, and they talk 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 and they talk. And there's nothing to reflect back because you haven't been given a break in the conversation. So what's the antidote to that one? The antidote to that one is it's okay to interrupt. And when you interrupt and you say, hang on just a minute, let me get this straight. I just need to get this part. What you said was that this is what's going on at work. And you also said that this is what's going on at school. And you also said, here's what's going on with my personal health. Did I get all those 3 right? Is that it? Okay, great. Please continue. And when you don't use that moment to take the attention to yourself or to make a point, you should do this or you should do that, people will begin to trust that you have their best interest in mind. And this is great as a leader. It's great as a coach. It's great as a therapist to be able to reflect back at this level because you want to make sure that you get it right. You want to reflect back the important things. And you want people to know that if I'm interrupting, and I'll literally do the timeout, hang on, just a minute. I want to make sure I get this right because this is what's going on in my head. I want you to know that I want to understand you and I'm going to put energy into understanding you. And when they know that, I become a trusted person to them. They really know that I'm there for them because I'm not using this to make a point. I'm not using it to judge them. I'm not using it to give them instructions or to throw in my ideas. I'm there for one purpose at that moment, to listen to them. Now, I don't know what the next slide is. Yeah, let me do it here under application. Active listening is not a way to be. Let me make that clear. Active listening, this is not how you show up in the world. Active listening is a tool to use at the right time. As a coach, I don't use active listening all the time. I use it when things aren't flowing right. I use it between people when there's conflict. I use it with my wife and my kids when I find that they might be frustrated with me. And I'm probably being a guy and I'm kind of checked out a little bit, doing my stuff, and I'm not paying attention to what's going on in my family. And they just want me to slow down and say, hang on, I'm going to put aside my phone and everything else, and I'm just going to pay attention to you. And when you do that and you say, so what I heard you say was this, and it sounds to me like your day at school was pretty rough, or car broke down and you felt bad because you couldn't get to work and you feel like you disappointed your boss. When this becomes the subject of the conversation and it's about them, honestly, people fall in love with you really, really quickly. So don't use this all the time. This is a tool. This is a tool to use at the appropriate time. It's probably one of the top 3 tools I use in my coaching. I use, we won't go into this, but this is probably one of the top 3 with my coaching clients and my therapeutic clients. So this is a paragraph that we're going to use now. So this paragraph, I'm going to read word for word, and then we're going to go learn why mirroring, reflecting, and validating, or active listening, or NVC, is so powerful. Okay. So the conversation goes like this. It's not a conversation. It's a diatribe. It's a one-way statement. The talking goes like this. I hate it when you do that. I've told you this before and you never listen. Why don't you ever listen to me? I feel so invisible around here. I have to work and I take care of the bills and I have to drive the kids around. Who do you think cleans the house? Do I get a simple thank you? Oh no, all I get is not being listened to, being ignored. Why bother? This is useless. We're never going to make it. Why do we even bother? So that's a lot. Now, to be clear, active listening is not about going from I hate it when you, on the first part of this paragraph, to why do we even bother, and to be able to reflect word for word what was said. That's that mechanical thing. What we're looking at is what is the gist of the conversation. And here's where it gets powerful. We, as active listeners, get to actively choose what part of the conversation we reflect back. So now watch what happens. So if I mirror back what they said, which was, I heard you say that you hate it when I do that, or I hate it when you do that. I told you this before and you never listen. I'm sorry, that was what they said. So I reflect this back. I get that you're upset and you feel like we've been here before and you feel like you're not listened to. Did I get it? Is there more? That line of conversation is going to go into the direction that they're upset and that they're hopeless because we've been here before and that they feel like I'm not listening to them. That's where the conversation is going to go. Now, if I reflect back another sentence, which would be they're saying, why bother? It's useless. We're never going to make it. Why do we try? And I reflect back, it seems to me like you feel helpless. No matter what we do, nothing seems to help. When you say that, it's going to go into their helplessness. And it might even go into them wanting to go get help, them wanting to find some sort of support to make this better. But it's going to be a different conversation than the first one. And the follow-up is, are you saying that you finished here and everything seems useless? Or do you really want to listen? Or you really want to be listened to and see if it's worth trying to figure out if we can make it? Again, notice I didn't try to fix or solve anything. This conversation is going in a different direction. So the results of this work, what we're talking about in active listening, is to create a sense of intimacy. Now, in business, in the corporate domain, we don't use the word intimacy. We use connection. Now, connection and intimacy, we'll swap them out. Intimacy is the ability to say, into me see. Intimacy is into me see. First thing we do when we're creating this listening is we keep reflecting back and focusing on the person. When we're reflecting and focusing on the person, we create a sense of safety. When we create a sense of safety, they lower their guard down, saying, I'm going to keep you out. You keep listening and listening. And pretty soon they're like, okay, I don't need my guard up. Now, when their guard's not up, they're vulnerable. And so vulnerability means I could be hurt, but I'm not. And so when people are vulnerable with you, when they're honest and they go into what's really at the core of what they care about, when they really go into the core of what drives them as a human being, or why they're really afraid of a performance review, or why their partner's actions causes them so much pain. When we get to the core of that, then we truly create intimacy. And I'm going to substitute that for connection, because in the business world, it's not going to be intimacy, it's going to be called connection. But when someone's talking to you about what they feel like at work and what really drives them, and you're there for them, and you really connect with them and you understand them, that sense of connection is currency. It makes you an amazing leader, makes you an incredible coach. People know they can trust you, they know that you're listening to them, and they also know that when you reflect back to them, they're going to learn more about themselves than they would have if you hadn't been in their lives. So whether you're coming at this as a therapist, a coach, an executive trainer, a leader, an HR manager, the act of active listening creates a connection. And that connection, again, I want to reemphasize, is rare in the corporate world. It can be found more often in the family, but sometimes even then we're so hurried. We get so many distractions and iPhones and pads and phones and businesses and long work hours and coming home exhausted that we don't make the time to connect. Using active listening in any domain creates a sense of connection that is profound and life-changing for those people that you're focusing on. So this has been a Landworks training on active listening. I really want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you with another training. Please contact me at the information below, and I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time.